Surf's up. We're back with the Mauisnake show, and we have a luminary in the space joining this time. It's Richard Lewis, Esports Award nominated Journalist of the Year. Be sure to vote for him on their website. But this is a rare opportunity given the fact that Richard, more or less, I feel like the way you're contributing now is doing movie reviews with Monty and Thorin on the Last Free Nation Culture channel. But I want to know what else you've been up to, Richard. I know you've been teaching, and so just kind of what's going on in your life right now as you've kind of taken one step away from CS.
Yeah, just enjoying being washed up. Really, it's that's kind of what it amounts to. Look, I been doing lots of sort of things that I've kind of always wanted to do for a while. Like doing a movie review show and writing about things and focusing a bit more on the kind of insanity that is American politics. I notice you've just moved back just in time, so enjoy that. But yeah, I mean, and teaching as well, and I've got a bit more time to work on a book now, and hopefully a bit more time to stream. Although I'm in the process of moving house, which is kind of stymied that. So it's just like lots of little things going on. But I still am trying to contribute to like esports in a meaningful way, still through reporting and I guess increasingly commentary, although I think, this year I've broken like some pretty big stories. I think things like because everyone's got a fucking short memory span, so you have to like remind people, but like stuff like the Hunden files, that resulted in, ESL taking action against Astralis, and, Hunden says it had nothing to do with him leaving Astralis, but I don't know. I sort of have to wonder about that. And obviously Casper Fit finally going. So in a funny way, Astralis fans owe me a big favor, I'd say. But stories like that, and obviously all the reporting around evil geniuses, which, as we've seen, has also caused a sea change in management, which will be for the better one way or another. So yeah, I just haven't got time for the roster moves anymore and all of that stuff, and maybe we'll get into that a little bit later on. But there's just bigger fish to fry. So yeah, I'm out there. I'm still doing stuff. I think the key change I've made in terms of my mentality is even though I used to say it all the time, I was kind of like telling a little white lie. It was like, about not caring, not caring about the community's opinion of me, and, sort of wanting to at least get an attaboy or a pat on the back now and then. Just after the past, however many years it's been, where it's just constant derision, no matter my intentions, constant, people repeating half-truths of an urban myth that they heard from before they even had the fucking game installed. I'm just sort of over it now. Like, I really don't give a fuck. I'm very openly in how hostile I am, in how much I despise the community. I'm loving all the CS2 stuff. I hope they never fix the game to the way that the community likes. They all deserve to suffer. I hope they're miserable forever. They're a bunch of pricks, and they don't appreciate good people until they're gone. They treat everyone like garbage. And if Valve accidentally do the same to them, which I don't even agree with, I think it's massively overblown, it's sort of hilarious for me, sat on Villain's Island. I'm enjoying it. I'm very much enjoying it. So, I'll still do my thing and the things that interest me, and I want to protect industry people from other bad faith actors. Could give a fuck about the community, frankly. They deserve everything they get, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you've been doing a lot of that via your Substack. I feel like you've gone solo on this as opposed to you were working with Dexerto before. I think what was your official title with Dexerto, if you don't mind?
I think editor at large,
Okay.
which is basically what that means is you're just a very overpaid columnist, essentially, is how that works in media.
So with the switch to Substack, do you mind telling the audience why you decided to go through that as opposed to sticking with a major publication?
Yeah, I mean, look, I worked with Dexerto for a long time, and like everyone else in the esports winter, everyone is feeling the pinch, and digital media is a wasteland. And I don't want to talk too much about private conversations or numbers and stuff like that. But I'll say this: I think the Dexerto guys are sort of waking up to the fact that the esports community just sort of sucks in terms of engagement and sponsorships and attention to good work. And so we'd had it for the longest time where I was like, hey guys, I'm off for a week because I have to interview a Ukrainian whistleblower who might be insane and telling a bunch of lies about ESIC that I'm going to have to then cross-reference with everybody else that I can like interview and stuff. And they go, okay, and what do we get out of that? And I go, you probably get a 4,000 word article we're going to have to chop in two, even though that's really jarring because the audience doesn't have the attention span to read 4,000 words. And they go, okay, and it's probably going to get about 10,000 clicks because people don't even really care about integrity. So, you know, I'm out there trying to do this like prestige journalism. It's a really wanky term. It's not the one I use. It's sort of what they call it in the business. You know, it's where you have to go away for a while and actually work and double check things and transcribe interviews, and a lot goes into it. But that type of work gets 100th of the clicks of did Pokemon fart on stream, a thorough investigation.
Got it.
And
I might have clicked that one actually.
Well, dude, who wouldn't, right? So, you know, the reality is, unfortunately, and Dexerto had to wake up to it. You know, like I used to, they're great guys. You know, I've known the three people that run that for a long, long time, going back to early UK esports, and we've always had a very good relationship, and they've always supported the type of work I want to do. But towards the end, we were just like, you know, this is going to get us nominated for an award, but in terms of nickels and dimes, it's a loss leader. And so I said to them, I said, yeah, and you are also paying me a fuck ton to be here. You know, because obviously, not tooting my own horn, there is a certain benefit to having, you know, Richard Lewis on the books. And so they were we had a conversation, and I just said, like, listen, let me do you a favor. Because if I was making cuts, the first person I would cut would be me. And so I said, I'll give being solo a chance. I'll see how it works out.
Okay.
That's how it happened, you know? So, yeah, Substack, fortunately, is probably the best website I've worked with in terms of, like, functionality and monetization and all of that stuff. So it's been... I've been very surprised because I wasn't expecting to be where I am in terms of subscribers and revenue generation. You know, it only started in March. So yeah, I mean, you know, here we are about to go into November, you know, and I've got over, you know, we're getting on now for 11,000 subs.
Wow.
And you know, about 1,200 of those now are paying at least $5 a month to access the content. And, you know, we're trending upwards. And then there's a Patreon on top of that. So it's like, you know, in terms of money, I'm making more money. And now I've got a much better editorial relationship because I'm writing the type of work that I know the audience and the community values and will give me time to do without it costing the newsroom, you know, too much money.
Well, first of all, that's fantastic, and I'm happy that it has been trending so well for you as an individual. Yeah. So
I was very surprised. Yeah. I thought it was going to be super niche, and you know, I might have to take on another job or something. But no, so far I get to remain, you know, self-employed, or at least to a certain degree, you know, beholden to the subscribers, so to speak.
Yeah, that's honestly really great and actually quite inspiring. But also, you've created such a great rapport with the community and people's respect for your work. So if anybody could do it, it would surely be you. So very nice to see that that's happening for you. You mentioned that actually you were writing a book too. Do you mind telling us what that's about?
So I started one ages ago, and I had a couple of talks with some publishers, and they were very interested in a kind of like esports unfiltered history thing. Everybody was loving that about, you know, 4 or 5 years ago when we were still climbing up as an industry. And so I got partway through writing that book. I basically got to the bit where it was sort of like, I'm going to need an advance now to like go to career and all this other stuff. And then that was when people got a little bit cold on it, because I guess there were a lot of people writing a lot of esports books. You know, there's a chap called Gene that I know over at the Washington Post. He wrote a book. Red Eye, of course, wrote a book. which has an entire chapter about why it's not a capital S in esports, which is important stuff.
Yeah.
And so so maybe it was just like that they didn't feel there was room. And now the book I want to write is about how esports sort of failed, how we like created, and people aren't ready to hear that. People are sort of looking into the abyss and going, maybe write that happy book, Richard. And I'm like, I don't know, the energy's not there for me right now. Like to this industry has become a parody of itself, and it's hurtful when you sort of put 20 years into something and you watch it just get taken over, and the whole time you've been there. It's sort of like it's like being a kid watching your parents sort of divorce in a horrific abusive manner super slowly, and you just up at the top of the stairs. No, like, oh, the fucking Interstellar meme. You behind the bookshelf. No, no,
Yeah.
stop fucking up esports. That's what I've been doing for like at least the last 10 years. And now we're finally here. This is the foul fruits that we're about to harvest. So people don't want that book. They would much rather us writing the good book again. So we'll see. If not, I always wanted to do a book on the CGS. I
Ooh.
already started that. And I've always wanted to write a book about Riot Games, which I'm sure will be a litigious nightmare if I ever get round to it. So lots of irons in the fire. I'm always like writing stuff that I never publish and, focusing on this, that, the other. I've definitely got a book or two in me. It's just waiting for the right publishing deal to sort of come along and swoop that up. Academia's been pretty good for that, actually. It gets you in the room with it makes you appear way more important and intelligent than you actually are, and you end up in a room with important and intelligent people that are in the position to kind of push you into book deals and other stuff like that. So that might help. I think being associated with a university and having professors around me that can vouch that I'm not a total idiot.
And that's another thing I wanted to ask about. But first of all, personal thing, I would love if you did a CGS book. I know I would read it because
Yeah.
I went to the actual event live. I actually was in the audience to view
Wow.
both CGI and CGS. So that would be
How old will you have been then?
I was probably
Because that's
12 or 13.
2006.
Yeah, 13 then. I was 13.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
But it's because I grew up in the SF Bay Area, and the first events were in Treasure Island in San Francisco. So yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And that leads me to the other thing that you just mentioned, the whole university association that you have now. I wanted to know what it is that you're doing there in terms of teaching.
Yeah, so I am an adjunct professor at the University of New Haven. I teach a course there about sports integrity. So it's not just esports; it's about all the other areas. Because I've been quite lucky. I've been doing this a while now, and with people are gonna say he's a snitch, he's a fed. But when we had all of the stuff that was going on with ESIC and everything else. And all the headlines about the FBI coming to get the match fixes, there was a period of time where it was sort of, oh, if you want to know about esports corruption, Richard Lewis is the go-to guy. And so you end up talking to like law enforcement in Canada, you end up talking to law enforcement in America, you end up talking to, private investigators, you end up talking to businesses. Because I lived in Vegas, I always had good connections in Vegas, and I was one of the people that was kind of helping when they opened up the esports book over there. I was acting in an advisory capacity and sort of explaining what protections would need to be in place uniquely for esports, and because it is different to stick and ball sports. And so all of that stuff has kind of positioned me to, I teach about, the baseball, the Black Sox scandal and other stuff on the course. I teach about doping and, kind of doping methods, how they catch like USADA, how that works, and things like that. So it's like it's not just esports. I teach a lot of other stuff, and it's super cool, man, because it's like I thought it was just going to be a bunch of Zoomers just, staring at their phones while we're all on Zoom, and it was going to be this miserable experience, a sea of broccoli haircuts, and none of them interested. But actually, it's been a very wide range of kind of people from all different backgrounds, different age groups, all wanting to do different things. literally there've been American law enforcement agents doing the course that I'm teaching because they want to add more strings to their bow so they can have a better understanding when they're doing financial investigations or learning how to spot, crypto scams or whatever it is. At the other end, it's people who want to work in Vegas, maybe work in casinos. It's people who want to work in sports. So yeah, it's really cool. And I mean, I never thought I could be at that end of academia. I barely got through university as it was, because I was too fucking distracted with all the other stuff that was going on.
What is the prepping for teaching a class and putting together a syllabus? How does that compare to, say, creating an investigative report for a website or your Substack at this point?
Yeah, I mean, so I was very lucky, because one of my journalistic heroes was actually the head of the department. This is how it all came about. He reached out to me, and I thought it was somebody joking, like in the community. Declan Hill is a guy he went undercover in like Singapore and Malaysia and places like this, and he was risking getting chopped up like by criminals to sort of report on match fixing in soccer. He's done a ton of stuff around match fixing in the Balkans and the Balkan crime gangs. He's like a legend in investigative sports journalism, and it was really him. And he was like, "Listen, I've followed your work for a while now because I'm interested in esports and looking at the similarities. I want you to come and take over the course I teach at this university. We'll do one semester where you shadow me, and then the course is yours, and you can change it or tweak it or do whatever you want." So I was like, well, I don't want to change it too much, like learn to walk before I can fly. But yeah, that was like, so he totally laid all the foundations. All I really did was add a bit of specificity to it because, the minutia of esports is kind of, when you know. And there was a lot of surface level stuff in the course. It was super weird because when I had to teach it for the first semester, I'm on the course because Declan Hill he put in the iBuyPower stuff, so I have to teach the iBuyPower story, which is a fucking surreal moment.
Yeah.
Where it's like, here's this thing I did in 2014, 2015, and here I am nearly 10 years later, and I'm teaching it for students. And there's, on the old exam before we changed it, there was exam questions like, how did Richard Lewis spot that they did it and stuff like this. So it's very strange to see stuff like that. But anyway, long story short, the prep was super easy because I had a great foundational course to build on. But, I try and put a lot of it, a lot into it. Mostly, I think the best work we do on the course, honestly, is in the seminars. Because I think, people are interested. The people who come to seminars at universities are always the people who really care about the subject and are really passionate. We've had some really good discussions and around certain things, and we get into stuff that's a bit more adjacent to the story itself, where it's like, we talk about clemency and the idea of lifetime bans for the iBuyPower guys. Is that appropriate? Is that fair? What should a scale of punishment look like? What should appeal processes look like? And generally, I think everybody ends up in the same place, which is even the most draconian people coming in sort of learn to understand the mitigating circumstances around things like match fixing and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting because it's almost like a sort of validation of where I ended up over time living with that story and feeling at first vindicated, then conflicted, and then kind of where I'm at now, where they really carried the can for everyone else, and it wasn't fair the way it was handled. So it's good. It's like a little exorcism in that respect. But I put a lot of work into it. I'd never shortchanged students. I think if anything, it gave me a better perspective about esports. And I always tell the class, I'm old and I'm jaded, and if you do listen to my content, that will very much come across now. But don't let that that shouldn't put you off getting a job in esports, because what we need is new people who aren't jaded after 20 years. We need new ideas and new energy and new enthusiasm to sort of dig us out of the terrible state that we're in. So, it's good to see people like that come in and have that enthusiasm that I once did. It's like being through the looking glass a little bit.
There's been a statement that has popped up, I would say, more frequently in the last 5 years, as there have been courses and even majors tailored to people that are interested in esports. And this phrase or mantra is more or less, don't actually study esports in college, study something else while still pursuing esports. With courses like yours and maybe other curriculum that's out there at this point, what's your stance on that?
I think the big problem in academia is that esports. So universities are businesses. They want to get bums on seats. Esports is super attractive as a potential course, because if you're young and you're interested in it, and you can do it as a degree, or you can get modular credits for doing it and stuff like this, or you could play in a team and that could maybe get you a scholarship. All of these things obviously appeal. The problem is a lot of these programs, particularly in the US, they're run by grifters, and
Yeah.
like you go on LinkedIn, which is I like to, I never post on LinkedIn, but I love to scroll through there. It's just like this hotbed of just bullshit. It's like it's like
It's so fake looking always.
yeah, bro, it's fucking unreal. And and it's like these guys who are like, I started my esports journey back in 1986
So
when my
performative.
parents got me my first Nintendo. And I wanted to get the highest score in the household. And you're like, oh, fucking just shoot me. Like,
Are you the king of Kong? Are you?
yeah, exactly. And it's like, listen, the problem always is, and it's an esports wide problem, but in academia, there's not the guardrails, because a lot of the faculty don't know when somebody's grifting or not. Which is why New Haven was very different, because not only could Professor Hill, Declan, vouch for me and my work, he obviously understood the space as well, because he'd been studying it for the past 2 years, and he knew, again, not to my own horn, but he knew I was the real deal. He knew I was endemic, and I had these credentials and I had these accolades. The problem you've got is at the average American university, it literally is a guy with an impressive line of bullshit on LinkedIn, and they end up running a fucking collegiate program. And now what do we do? And unfortunately, what ends up happening is those courses don't have a lot of value. They don't teach you any skills to go and get an esports job. They don't prepare you for what the industry is like. It's almost like just a grifter telling esports anecdotes, all of which are probably inventions anyway. So those courses do suck, and I would advise people to stay away from them. I think, like everything, you just have to be really discerning about, where do you want to go? University in New Haven's great. We've got like a ton of endemic esports people. We got guys like Kevin Nocky, who's a name nobody will fucking know it, but he's been around the block. This guy he used to do esports radio broadcasting back in the day. He's done journalism, he's done all this stuff, and now he's a professor at this university and teaching a fantastic course. So it's like, University in New Haven cares about the kind of people it's bringing in, and it wants to keep up a very high standard of experience. Whereas most universities are just like, let's just get an esports program on the books, and let's just hire this guy off LinkedIn. He looks really nice in a tie. He doesn't wear Megadeth t-shirts all the time. He's doing his lectures, so.
Okay, quick question. Do you wear Megadeth t-shirts when you're lecturing, or how do you dress?
Exactly like this. Because, I've never, in all things, I was one of the voices saying, I don't think esports should be suit and tie. I certainly don't think we should be wearing fucking tuxedos or whatever the fuck's going on over there. I think, but you've got to when something is endemic and organic, it should the people at the top should reflect the people at the bottom. There shouldn't be a lot of separation. There shouldn't be a lot of difference. You know, you might be the guy that hosts the biggest tournament in the world, but at the end of the day, when I fucking get out from behind that desk, I could queue up with you in the same video game that we all care and are passionate about. It's another thing I used to love about esports, that there was no separation between the people at the very top. They were within touching distance. You could talk to them. You could meet them. There was, there was no like security guards you had to go through. You didn't have to write a letter or go to the Make-A-Wish Foundation or whatever the fuck it was just to talk to your favorite person, you know? And somewhere along the line, we went really far in the opposite direction, where it was like everybody got a huff of the celebrity culture and everybody wanted to be that, and everybody was like really overdressed and spending more on their wardrobe than they were on their fucking, I don't know, research.
Yeah, the time. The time they're spent with the putting together an outfit can be longer than actually studying the teams in front of them. Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, and you know, and I hated that era, and I lost a lot of friends in that era because, you know, I said how silly it was, and people didn't like it. People don't like it when you say, "Listen, why are you dressed like that, mate?" Well, they're like, you look like you're at your wedding.
Yeah,
and you're hosting a tournament about fucking 14-year-olds, you know, and like about which 14-year-old can play a fighting game better. Like, grow, you know, sort this out. Like, you gotta get a sense of occasion and what it is. And then, unfortunately, I think where we're at now, it's kind of gone a bit too much the other way, which is, it's not that it's casual. It's like that, you know who they are. There are some people who they won't adhere to a dress code. They treat it like it's a fucking catwalk. They're more interested in making a fashion statement and being the flamboyant, look at me, look at my outfit on camera, you know, more style than substance. And I think that's like not a fun environment to work in either. And I think that also is part of this influencer bullshit that came into esports, where it's like people don't judge you on your job or the content of what you're saying or your analysis or whatever it is. They judge you on, you know, are you still capable of living up to a 20-year-old body standard at 38? And if the answer to that is yes, then you must be good and you are hireable. And also, do you know, what is the most fashionable brand of brown chinos or whatever? I don't fucking know. It's just the whole thing's just a farce. When it gets to that level, it's a farce. Like, it should just be like, dudes, I'm turning up in a smart t-shirt and a pair of jeans, and I'm gonna talk, and what I say makes sense because I'm the same as you are at home, and let's just have it like that. That's all it ever needed to be. We don't need to overthink it. We're just people talking about video games at the end of the day. We're you know, I look at like sports broadcasts. Sports broadcasts understand this. I think in the UK, maybe not so much in America, but like, you know, I watch Sky Sports and it's like, you know, they get an ex-player on and he just turns up. He's not even in a jacket. And that's how it should be. Like, I think, you know, at the end of the day, there's a level to a desk where it's like, yeah, it's analysis and it's punditry, but it is just fans sort of shooting the shit as well. And it's important you find that balance. And I think part of like how relatable you are is the appearance. And so when it's too ridiculous, it's a turn off to our young audience, many of whom will never have worn a suit, because when do you?
Right.
You know? And if you go too far the other way and you turn it into this influencer thing, it's a distraction to the content of the broadcast. You know, it's like everything, man. Balances, right?
Right. I would say though that it's fair to assume you're more of a substance over form type person, but with all of the sponsors that are coming in, like when Mercedes-Benz sponsors an event or these really professional suit and tie type corporations start doing that, they're going to start valuing form over substance instead, and they'd rather just see pretty faces on a desk. And I think that we've gotten very much so wrapped up into trying to keep pushing esports. Everybody's looking, how do we
Yeah.
make esports more like sports? And I think that's also kind of been a question here and there. And I'd say, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I would say I would consider you more of a traditionalist to the space, and you're more about keeping things rooted in what it's really all about. But what have you perceived in this whole slow shift to try to just make esports bigger and bigger and bigger? Because everybody at the end of the day just values growth.
Yeah, I think the pursuit of size and scale is definitely fucked us up because I thought we arrived at our final destination in 2016. Honestly, I think we arrived exactly where we needed to be. Because here's the thing, I generally agree with the sentiment. It's good if esports is like sports, but not for the reasons everybody else says it. Like, I think a sports broadcast is fantastic, and I think if you take an American sports broadcast where you have a desk segment where it's not just analysis, it's opinions and arguments and energy. That's brilliant. That's tailor made for esports. It perfectly translates. Uh, but the games themselves, we can't really broadcast them in a traditional sports way, so you can't copy that. Fan interaction can't be the same as it is because I'm sick and tired of hearing the argument of like, it's okay if fans say he's behind you in the middle of a clutch for $1 million tournament because in soccer they say that. It's like, right, okay, yeah, but in tennis you get fucking thrown out. In snooker you get thrown. So, you know, we need to we need to have our own standards of what's acceptable behaviorally from fans, crowds, players, you know, whatever it is. And then also, I think as well, just in general, I think there's a lot more. There should be a more playfulness with esports for obvious reasons. You know, like you wouldn't want in a game of football. You know, like in the no fun league. I'm using the word football in the
Yeah,
American
right.
sense.
NFL. Yep.
You know, yeah, NFL. You wouldn't want like people get pissed off if someone's like doing a fucking TikTok dance every 5 seconds and they're fucking
Yeah.
arguing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like in our sport, there's definitely a room for a bit of playful fun and banter that people always get bent out of shape about. You know, see the cadiaN thing. Oh, we called the player a noob. No, what are we gonna do? Just fucking nonsense.
That was some
And
sorry ass response to that. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like, you know, I thought E-League, we really tapped into that well. I think, like, you know, for example, when Nico was at Mousesports, we did a whole segment where it was just analyzing Nico's reactions. And we did a 3 minute highlight reel of like Nico banging the table, eyes rolled up into his head. And like you hadn't really seen stuff like that on an esports broadcast at that point. And I thought E-League just got it. I thought E-League really understood, you know, because we were all chipping in with what we thought would be cool and stuff. And we just, at the end of the day, I thought we had the right balance of it's fun, it's playful, but it is serious, it is sports. And here are the fans, and they're in a stadium, and we're putting on a show for them, but we're not getting distracted with a fucking music act at the start. There's no DJ Khaled here. You know, we're going to put on an intro to the tournament. We're going to introduce the teams. We're going to go to the broadcast, and it's going to be done. You know, as much sports as you could realistically fit into esports before it becomes something it was never meant to be. And that's what I mean about E-League in 2016 in general being the final destination. We'd gone from being in barns and warehouses and shitholes like, you know, I attended LANs that were in bowling alleys.
Wow.
You know what I mean? No joke. This is in Denmark, the DS rack. You know, someone had hired a fucking bowling alley while the tournament was going on under here. The players were like bowling and drinking between matches upstairs. You know, so I've seen it all, right? And what we've done is we went from those types of venues into stadiums. And we had viable ways of translating what was happening on the servers to the crowd, and for the crowd to be into it and feel like they were getting a good experience. And we were filling these stadiums, you know, 5,000, 8,000, 10,000. That's it, guys. That's it. We've done it. We made it. We arrived. Don't fuck with us. Just simply do not fuck with us. But when Americans get greedy, man, they just fuck with it. And all these American owners, and I do blame the Americans quite specifically, with all the bullshit like the Overwatch League that came and all this other stuff that started creeping into esports in 2017, 2018. They just killed the golden goose, man. We just had the best thing ever. We had the best broadcasts. We had the right balance, and we just totally fucked it. And now look where we are. It's, everything sucks.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely been a pretty big change, and I mean, there's been different types of parties that have been getting involved just to try to keep upscaling the whole scene. But I wanted to actually move to kind of the biggest issue at hand, which is that given that I would say most of our audience is probably Counter-Strike related, CS fans, the topic at hand that has been quite concerning for a lot of people is that with the new step into CS2, we've seen that at first it felt like a big step forward, that a lot of people were jumping back into the game, that people were very excited about it, and now it's made the front page of Reddit multiple times. It's made it today as of the day of the recording this, and I think it was probably a week ago also, where people are consistently talking about the fact that player base numbers are shrinking by the week because of a multitude of reasons. And I just want your general take on just kind of like community reaction to how this CS2 release has been being handled.
So I'll get it out the way. Valve definitely have to get some criticism. I'm not totally like, I'm going to come out here and be on the side of the big corporation. They absolutely needed to frame this as an open beta. And they absolutely needed to allow people to play CSGO in some capacity while this open beta was being molded into a final release. Because by not doing that, the expectation is I'm getting a finished product with this game. And we all know 4 weeks in, it ain't that. And so I understand some of the hard feelings around it. What I won't accept is that all it took for people to say CSGO was perfect was for the release of CS2. This is how I know if you're a fucking liar. You're just a moron. You're just drifting through life, just pulling shit out your ass. Because anyone who says CSGO was perfect is unbelievable. People were complaining about the hit reg in that game, all sorts of stuff, right up until CS2 got released. And then suddenly it was the greatest FPS ever released, right? Which said no one ever, right? Until now. So it's like all things with this community, it's just gone too far in the opposite direction. Mm-hmm. There's like totally valid criticism. I mean, of course there is. As I said, you wouldn't be in a position where the big problem was the skins. I mean, that fucked it up for everyone because they couldn't, or rather they didn't want to, or they didn't feel comfortable, or they were worried about a class action suit, or all of the above. They couldn't just roll out a new game and say, by the way, we're only selling new skins in CS2 now. Your CSGO skins aren't coming over. You see, that's what they should have done. They should have left CSGO by the wayside, let all the skin cells cry about how their Dragon Laws aren't coming over to CS2, and just fuck them. Because the skins have been one of the worst things. They're the cancer right at the heart of the scene that causes so many other secondary cancers.
Thank you for saying this. Thank you.
No, but it's true, bro. Yeah. It's true, bro.
I had this take too. I had this take a few weeks ago on a hot take point made where I said
I saw it.
Yeah, where I was just thinking that, because the whole cash cow here is skins as opposed to actually making a valid game, it's just warping everybody's perception of what's acceptable, what's not. And even in some ways, it's warping what Valve think is probably the most relevant thing, because at the end of the day, the way that they're making the majority of their money is through loot box openings, essentially, and a secondhand skin market. And so they're just trying to make sure that the game is playable enough that these skins are going to retain value, because again, you don't want to kill what's making them at this point hundreds of millions of dollars. I think that I forgot the exact number that was how many cases were open in a single month, but it was something where they were making $100 million or more. They were making nine figures from just CS cases being opened.
But I mean, like, put that to one side, right? Let's just also, isn't it incredible that all the problems that the game has had at launch, right? You do know they didn't just press a button and the skins went from the old engine into the new engine.
Right.
Like they had, so my understanding is they had to, or every item that appears in like Source 2 is they have to drop it in, remodel it, make it fit. It's not just a copy paste.
Right. They said they built it from the ground up on so many things. Yes.
So what do you think that entails when you've got all of those fucking skins that have to come across from all of the cases throughout the entire history of the game? They all have to be put into the game again. Everyone's inventories all has to match up and be all updated. And by the way, we've seen a few little weird things, haven't we? Where when you preview in a case now, people are getting offensive names on some of the skins.
I saw that too.
Yeah, like Unicorn Dick or whatever the fuck. And that's because apparently it pulls from a random listing. I think they're doing that to like maybe save some time somewhere along the line. But what I'm saying is this was a mammoth undertaking. And isn't it weird that we had animations that didn't sync up, hitboxes that didn't sync up? Nothing wrong with the skins, except the people crying about the lighting, right? So it's very clear where they put their priority, in my opinion, because somebody had to do that. And while that somebody was doing that, they weren't doing the other things. So if you're mad about the state of CS2, maybe next time, you're like sort of saying, oh, look at this streamer opening 1,000 cases. Maybe don't support those guys, because the people that have commodified skins and turned it into this fucking unhealthy obsession and fixation at the heart of our game, they nearly killed our game like 5 times over. I'm talking pro players.
Yep.
Having to do things they didn't want to do. I'm talking pro players begging to borrow knives, scamming fans. We nearly lost the bunch to that, right? Their own temptation getting the better of them. Fucking, like, I don't even want to get into it, but like, there's been a ton of unsavory stuff around it. And of course, let's not forget the glory of the match fixing / DDoS years of Lounge. So skins have been an absolute cancer. I don't give a fuck. Everyone always goes, yeah, but where would the game be without them? Smaller, but better off.
Healthier.
Yeah,
Yes.
completely.
Yeah. Less cancerous.
Completely.
Yeah.
And by the way, CS2 will be better off as well, because we wouldn't have had to worry about porting them across. They should have just turned them off, tanked the market, started afresh with new skins you can only get in CS2. We'd be so much better off if they did that. The game would be better off. So yeah, I mean, look, just to actually answer the question. Sorry, I'm cutting you off again, but just to answer the question that you did ask. The reaction from the community, as I said, has been so ridiculously over the top and not helpful, because they're complaining about the same few things, many of which Valve do not even see as a problem. You are never getting 128 tick. Stop.
You're making me cry over here.
You are never,
I know.
Right? Like, you are never getting 128 tick. Valve never wanted 128 tick in Global Offensive, but they let it go. They are not letting it slide for CS2. You're never getting it. Stop making 10 threads a day on Reddit about how all we wanted was a VAC that works in 128 tick. These are not right. Valve doesn't agree with you, and it's their game, their philosophy, right? They've always believed that 128 tick is not optimal, it's just faster. So that's what they believe, and they are now creating a whole new thing in subtick that they believe optimally works around 64 tick. That is where it is going to be. That is where it is going to stay. You either get on board or I don't know. This isn't the game for you anymore. Stop playing it. So, all those people who are leaving, by the way, probably like half of them just haven't got a machine good enough to play anymore. So I'm not even worried about that number.
Yeah, in that PC Gamer interview with the Valve employee, he did say, they asked him, what do you regret, or kind of what do you wish you did differently with this release? And the one thing that he cited that was a problem was we probably should have been better telling people what the minimum requirements were for the game, which I found just hilarious because I felt like there were so many things you could have done differently with this release. And with hindsight, you could have just said, oh, we could have done this differently, that differently, whatever, the matchmaking experience, anything like that. But instead, it's just that we probably should have told people the right system requirements before we came out with this one.
Well, I mean, but also probably the thing you can certainly get right. It seems like a basic thing, but I mean, yeah, like just people were playing Global Offensive in 2022 on fucking toasters and stinking up your fucking games because people think, the hilarity, by the way, of like, we need 128 tick servers and you've got fucking 40 FPS. Like, I can't, like, shut the fuck up, you're a moron. So yeah, it's an outrage. But I mean, look, I think a lot of people, it's never nice when you have to sort of upgrade your PC to just play a specific game. Yeah. But I'm from the Crisis years. Suck it up, Buttercup. If you can't afford it, fuck you. You're not entitled to play a game. You're not just entitled to play a game just because it exists. If your machine is too bad to play it, boo fucking who. Get a better machine or play something else. A million games out there. You know what I mean? Yeah, so I'm just not sympathetic to that at all.
Yeah, I mean, I actually, the one thing I do have sympathy with those people is the fact that they can't go back to CS:GO. Like,
yeah. And as I said, that should be available.
Yeah.
Now, Valve don't have an obligation to host servers for it, but they should have a build of Global Offensive, and it is available. But what I mean is, like, that it should have been. It shouldn't be like I have to unlist and get it. It should just be Global Offensive. I go in. And I can play on community servers, or I can even host my own, or whatever. It should just be like that. They should just make. And I don't want to promise, but I've kind of heard that, like, because there's definitely some consumer issues, and you have to understand Valve have lost some consumer lawsuits, like in Australia and stuff. So it's like taking away a game from Mac users just entirely.
Yeah.
Right. I can't support that, and I have to believe Valve will go, but they know that, and they know there's a genuine grievance there. So I have to believe at some point there is going to be like a stripped out version of Global Offensive that's just there. They're not going to support it. They're not going to update it, but it's there. And if you want to run a community server for it, you can. And if you want to host the server, if your PC is good enough, you can. And that's how it should be. Certainly, it should never have just been Thanos out of existence. Not that it has, but that's how people are sort of reacting to it.
Okay, let's pivot here from just the general state of the game as it is to something a little bit more esports adjacent, which is sort of the news cycle that has been dominating this season right now, which is roster moves and in particular leakers. There has been a lot of discussion regarding a couple of the figures in the space. I don't even really want to give them the legitimacy to call them figures in the space, actually, but I'll just say the leakers that are now dominating the Twitter timeline, which is in particular, I'll say that the names Overdrive and Harumi have been very much so out there, positing all of these moves. And before we had this gold standard of a bunch of reporters actually in this space. I feel like at one point you probably mentioned a couple of the roster moves. I know that DK was a guy that a lot of people had a lot of reverence for because his track record was incredibly strong. There's even people kind of on the Valorant side who have been generally very accurate, like George Geddes. But now we're getting, I would say we're kind of in a state that almost reminds me of a few years ago where people would just make Twitter accounts named Danish Leaks and they could just say literally anything that they wanted. And it was just some words they heard through the grapevine, probably a Steam message from a tier 2.5 professional who heard something else from a tier 2 pro who heard something else from somebody else, And now it's gotten to a point where how do you even reckon with the fact that this is practically speaking what is making headlines every single day now?
Yeah, I mean, look, so, right. The way the leakers operate now in esports is how they've always operated in sports. So the standard in sports is garbage. Like 90% of just speculation is exactly that. It's one dude at a local rag, and he fucking says, I talked to a physiotherapist. Well, he doesn't say that, but, he talks to a physiotherapist at Chelsea. and he says, "Oh, I saw a dude who looked like, Haaland." It was a tall dude with a ponytail was there. I think Haaland's coming for a medical, and that goes into the back of the papers, and everyone goes, and then nothing happens, and no one bats an eyelid because it's the same bullshit the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And esports, in that sense, is mirroring what sports media has become. Now, that's not a standard I want us to do, but if it is the new normal, I mean, it's not as if the real world of sports is any better. But for many journalists, the grievance is this: that if you got a story wrong, one story wrong, people would shit on you. They would, you were done. You were out. Put it this way: if I'd ever gotten one wrong, it would have been the end of my career. And like for that standard, for that to be the standard, 100% in 18 years. That's
right.
the standard. Nah, that's too much for anyone, dude. Like you have to be a genuine bona fide sicko like me to fucking even wake up and sort of agree to that. So I don't mind the standards being a bit more lax. No one should have to live the way I did and have to be that stressed every time you hit send. Particularly with the CS2 story in March, where it was like even HLTV were like, "Well, he's fucked up this time."
Yeah, the way they titled it, Richard Lewis reports this thing about CS2 coming out.
He's fucked up this time. I can't wait for the knives to get out on this one. He's finally done himself. So, nobody should have to deal with that pressure. What we got with this modern generation of leakers, though, is, like this Harumi cat, right? He clearly guesses based on speculation. Because let's also be real, right? I mean, when I came on your stream the other day and I was telling all the stuff about Twist and and I heard a rumor Karen would be going to heroic and her face thing was all getting, torn apart and stuff. And that's just shit I'm hearing out there. That's just player talk and speculation and insiders, and everyone thinks they know something that they don't, and no one keeps the secrets. It's esports and Well, I mean, so, I saw this with like, Rush B Media, where we did an episode of By the Numbers, me and Duncan. We did an episode of that, and we did a speculation about a Team Liquid roster change, and then the next day, Rush B Media published word for word what we'd said on By the Numbers as the speculation, and it was just a bit we were doing, like we were just speculating, and it was completely wrong. So I know Harumi does that 100%. I've even seen him delete tweets when he gets it wrong.
Yeah,
that's all you need to know right there. If you need to raise your batting average by deleting some of the misses, deleting the times you swung and a miss, then that means you ain't real. But he has been right on a few. And listen, all you have to do, and this was Overdrive's model, all you have to do is lick players' arseholes to get rostered. It's the easiest thing in the world. And Overdrive's in there because, remember, people probably don't notice about him, but back in the day, he was just some weirdo who fucking paid money so he could play in teams with top-tier players and go to LANs. And he would be like, "Do you want to play on Team Overdrive?" And it would be like, fucking like 4 unbelievable like future Hall of Famers, and then Overdrive just stinking up the joint. But, listen, I'll say this. It compared to Harumi, like, Overdrive is fucking Nostradamus. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. And so ridiculous.
And this motherfucker gets a ton of stuff wrong. Like, remember, according to Overdrive, Neymar was making a super team with s1mple and Ziwu in it. Stop me if you've heard this one. So it's like, look, I got nothing against people trying to make a living, and I've got nothing against people trying to generate a bit of interest. But once you start doing roster moves, you are falling under the wheelhouse of journalism, and you should hold yourself a little bit accountable because, people's livelihoods are on the line here. It's not out of the realms of possibility that a lie a leaker tells could stop a player getting a roster move. It's totally within the realms of possibility. It certainly happened in League of Legends, where one of these fucking leakers with a Pokemon have fucking said some bullshit, and because of that, somebody goes, "Oh, okay, well, we don't even need to worry. We can't get that player. He's already got a deal, so we'll just go get somebody else." And that's happened. So you've got to be careful with that shit, because it's like it is people's livelihoods. It's not just something you throw out there for a few clicks. So it's sad. Reddit could stop it tomorrow. All you have to do is stop upvoting them.
Yeah, for real. It's kind of,
but it won't. So
in a way, actually, it's interesting because if I were somebody that was trying to make headway into the space and you saw this open opportunity where if you just speculate and you get a couple things right here and there, you will get upvoted, you will get a lot of follows. And this has been verified by people that I respect as journalists in the space, and I'm not saying their names, but in terms of the way that Harumi made his name, Harumi used to just look at who's following who and just kind of kept updating just looking at, like, for example, the biggest break that Harumi had that gained him his first several thousand, as told me by journalists in the space with better track records, is that he looked at Cypher's following list and saw that Cypher one day followed somebody, I think from OG actually, like their general manager. And so Harumi, in speculation, simply said Cypher has signed a contract with OG and is joining their team. Something made it sound really official when obviously he had no idea. That never happened. He said a very similar type of thing about the contracts are signed with Guild when it was obviously TSM that got that exact wrong lineup. And so
literally he ended that tweet TSM out.
Yes, exactly.
Exclamation point. You know?
Exactly. He said it with such like he knew it verifiably. It seemed like it's at that point. I want your reaction though from, again, the guy that was the gold standard for a while for leaks was DK. He chimed in for a single tweet yesterday as this was all going down and people were just getting things wrong. And he said, the problem with leakers is that they all do it out of selfishness. Every potential leak has them thinking, what's in this for me? This breeds stupidity and inaccuracy. My goal was always, 1, get it right, and 2, help the player in question find their next move option ASAP. What do you think of his tweet?
Yeah, I mean, DK spot on. You know, Jarek was one of the guys that back when he first came into the scene, he was doing it for the right reasons because, you know, we fended off the evil for a while that is Jake Lucky, but like all true evil, can it be destroyed? You know what I mean? We needed to throw Jake Lucky's ring into fucking Mount Doom, I guess, but we never got around to it. So, you know, look, Jake Lucky used to be called CS News, and he did the same thing, got a ton of stuff wrong, did an absolutely disgraceful story about Mo, where he found a profile on some fucking like Arabian dating app that used Mo's picture and then ran a story saying this is proof that Mo's cheating on his wife.
Oh, right. You know, yeah, I remember about this.
You know, and you know, by the way, there should be a consequence for that, but it's esports, so you know there isn't. But you know, DK said, you know what? I can't do a worse job than this cunt. So I'll give it a whirl. And he learned the ropes and he reached out to people like me. And, you know, we've always happy, and well, certainly back in the day, always happy to mentor people that want to learn the craft and what the ethical boundaries of journalism should be and when to pull the trigger on a story and when not to and things like this. And I always thought he was very, very good. But let's also be real. Like DK was stellar in his record. He probably had like a 97, 98% record. And generally, the stories he got wrong were wrong because a last minute aspect of a deal changed or something like that. But again, to be clear, this new breed of leaker, they're not sending their best. Don Hassey, when he used to do leaks, had a better fucking batting average than these fools. These people, as you said, they just set up an account. And it's always with the same goal. Because they ain't got no heart in it. They just want to get to, like, they have a number in mind of what number of followers makes them a celebrity. And they just want to hit that. And they'll say anything. And then they'll repurpose the account. And they'll repurpose the account. Maybe even sell the account. And they'll just say, out of esports now, guys. Sorry, no more leaks. And it's like they're just sat on a fucking Twitter account with 25,000 people who only followed them because they told a lie about whether a player was joining the team or not.
You could already see this trending with Harumi's account because it used to say in the description,
journalist
esports insider and esports journalist. Then I called him out and he took out esports journalist pretty shortly after that. And then it's just said esports insider for a while. And I think people kept railing him for the fact that he was so incorrect so frequently. And now it just says life enjoyer as his bio.
Yeah.
And aren't we all?
This guy is not an insider by any stretch of what the word insider would mean. Now, is he an outsider that knows some players? Yes, right? Knowing a player, by the way, does not make you an insider. Think about what the word inside means, right? Like, he's an outsider who can have a conversation with someone who is an insider, but that doesn't make you an insider. So I think with Harumi's a sort of, the thing that worries me with him is he's got delusions of fucking grandeur. Did you see the video he did where he was like, "This is how the radar hack works," and and he was trying to make out that he knew about some cheating. This is what people are doing online. It's like, you don't even have to do that. You just literally call up the data analytics partner and say, "Can I have the clean stream? No software required, guys." That's my worry, that he's going to bite off more than he can chew. Because he thinks he can actually do real journalism and take on real stories. Overdrive, to his credit, always stayed in his lane, and that is, it's just sort of glorified water cooler talk about sports. He's got an ego about it, and I think HLTV confirmed it's shameful that you're going to take people like this and put them on your broadcast and give them credibility. But whatever. I mean, that's up to them. Harumi is a particularly bad example. And before him, it was the Polish leaks. Before him, it was the Danish leaks. It's like Family Guy. They're just pulling fucking names out of a hat and tying it together. And they're going to be right sometimes because the scene is predictable and players are predictable and orgs are predictable. But you can't put too much stock in these people. There are real journalists that put their name, their byline on credible reporting at credible publications, and these are the people you should be pushing, even if they're second to a leaker. So,
okay, let's move into a leak that actually manifested. This officially was announced probably 15 minutes before we started recording this, that Navi have announced that Wonderful is going to be s1mple's replacement. And I just want your first take on this whole move.
Well, listen, again, remember last time we talked last week or whenever the fuck it was, what did I tell you? I said my read is s1mple is going to retire from CS and he's going to go play Valorant. Told you that.
Yep.
And you were like,
You
no. It can't be. All of the, again, speaking as an insider, all of the chatter behind the scenes and coming out of the Ukrainian players and people around the Navi apparatus. And do remember, guys, I've got lots of friends in that part of the world, been covering this stuff for years, and I ask them questions and I keep in touch with them, and we talk about things, and things just fall into conversation because we're talking about the game. And all of the chatter is this: s1mple has been burned out for a while. He wants a rest. He hates CS2. He hates it. He does. He's not doing a bit on social media. He's not a player looking to get some clout or some clicks or some engagement. He really hates this game. That's what everybody says. And I'm not talking to s1mple about it, full disclosure. But I get the impression that's not a lie. And I think we all know he streams Valorant. We all know he likes a challenge. We all know he will get a single payout, the likes of which the world has never seen in esports, probably, to go and play Valorant. And it's not within the realm of impossibility that he could play Valorant for Na'Vi, and it would just be a sideways move. So, but I said it, I've called it for a while, and I just think we're so close to losing the GOAT to Valorant in what would be some sort of insane blockbuster move, just because of where CS2's at and because of just how s1mple thinks about what he needs to sort of cement his own legacy in his mind. Now, if you had to go out and get a replacement, I think signing Wonderful's kind of brave. He got accused of a bunch of shit by that guy, the whistleblower guy that I interviewed. And again, everyone's just forgotten about all the allegations he made, because he made so many and they weren't substantiated. But if you remember, we've seen a couple of players now where it's kind of come, like Joel, it's kind of come to fruition that some of those allegations had some substance. There was another allegation he specifically made, that Yarabo character that I interviewed, and Wonderful was accused as well. And in fact, I believe the last article I wrote was when Wonderful was at Monty, and I think they were trying to blackmail them about this.
Wait, what was it? Can you say what the actual accusation was? Was it
Yeah, hang
fixing
on.
or cheating or what?
Let me just make sure I get it, because
Yeah,
that was so crazy that time. Like, the guy tried to dox me, and there were people trying to geolocate my the burner phone number I gave him and stuff. It was like very, very wild. But yeah, it was called "It's a Wonderful Life," I think is the article. Yeah, here it is. So yeah, it says here, blah 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 blah, Yarabo, blah blah blah. Yeah, there you go. He said that back when Majesty was playing for back when Wonderful was playing for a team called Majesty, there was some match fixing very early on in
that
his
was
career.
in late 2020. Okay.
That was
So
the allegation.
So match fixing.
Yeah, and
Okay.
look, and Isak are as much use as a fucking chocolate teapot, mate, at this stage. It's very, I hate to say it, because I've still got friends over there, and I still think they could potentially provide a useful service. But at this point, you kind of feel like the genie's out the bottle, but whatever. So anyway, I think it's brave to pick him up on that basis without floating out there. But ignoring that, filling in for the GOAT takes a certain swagger to your demeanor. And I think in that sense, Wonderful is a very good pickup. I think he's a fantastic talent. I think he's still very raw. But based on what I've seen kind of so far, in terms of what he's been doing while he's been at Sprout, you can tell he's too good for that team.
Yeah.
And you can tell he doesn't belong there. And I also think, he is somebody that is going to listen to instruction. By all accounts, he's no pun intended, but he's a wonderful person to kind of work with in that sense. A lot of young, egotistical star player AWPers don't necessarily have a level head on their shoulders, because you've got the high pressure role, and you have to have agency in how you play. You can't just, if you think I can go aggressive here and get a shot, you need to be able to go and do that. If you've got an IGL who's telling you, no, play conservatively and hold the angle because I don't want to risk losing the gun, it can get very frustrating very quick. Wonderful seems to be very flexible in that regard. And I just think, look, I want Alexi B to just win, like at life. Because I just feel he's been so fucking cursed with every move he's made. I made a joke when he went to Na'Vi. I said, this is the nightmare. I said, he thinks he wants this because he's like, surely if I'm alongside s1mple, we'll win things, and then I'll win things, and my legacy will be... It's like, bro, you are going to go down in history as the IGL that played with Nico and s1mple and fucking didn't do anything. And that's you know what I mean? Yeah. And that's so fucked up. And he is a good IGL, and he's a super cool cat. He's a really, really nice dude. So it's he's just been really unlucky. So I'm looking at that team right now. It's a very underwhelming team for me, in my opinion, without s1mple on it. But they're raw, they're open, they'll get with the program. I don't see a lot of egos on that team. And maybe that's what Alexi B needs. So it could be a good move for him and a good move for Na'Vi. Certainly a good move for Wonderful. And honestly, real talk, I know they're talking about it like it's just sort of the GOAT will return. I don't know. I think we've seen the last of him.
That pains me to hear, but I don't. I'm holding out hope that it's something like he's gonna take this 3 to 6 month break and come back. I have to give some credence to what you said, that he might just switch games to Valorant at this point, because he was playing that for a bit on stream. I'm not gonna blow it out of proportion. He wasn't playing it for 8 hours a day or anything like that, but he definitely gave it a real crack. And if that's if he's really disliking CS2 this much, then I wouldn't, in a weird way, I wouldn't actually mind seeing it, because then it kind of, the what if question that's been out there for a while. Like, what if Tens came? Like, people say it as a joke. Like, what if Tens came back to Counter-Strike after he was so good in Valorant? Which I don't care about that at all. Like, I don't think he would actually be that good. But if s1mple actually tried Valorant, if you could just get down the fact that there's a million abilities flying him at every single second, can he transfer his skills from CS to that game? Because it would just be cool to watch, frankly. But for the
I also think as well, though, it's like it would certainly, it might not feel good initially for CS fans, because all the Valorant fans would be like, your best player of all time came and played our game. Where's your Valorante child's game memes now? But imagine if s1mple goes over there and just fucking owns it.
Yeah. I think that's what we'd all kind of want deep down.
Yeah.
Because then the argument is just like anybody that played CS at a super high level could just dominate Valorant, and it could further the supremacy that people feel as they hold that over Valorant's head. But for the move itself, I'll just give my thoughts on the Wonderful joining. Is that when Wonderful joined Spirit, as Spirit ditched Dexter, who did very well for them at the Antwerp Major. At the Rio Major, actually, in terms of just pure rating, Wonderful got less resources and actually had better statistics than Dexter. And everybody was saying, if you pick up Dexter, you're going to become it's such an upgrade for practically every team in the top 10, other than, say, the m0NESY, s1mple, ZywOo types.
Yeah.
But Wonderful actually literally had better numbers than him. And in my eyes, he was playing well within a system, as opposed to Dexter, who was always trying to go for the next play for himself. So if you can be a system opper like Wonderful, playing under an IGL like Alexi B, I think of what good system oppers have done in the past for Alexi, like Alu, like Montu. Then you kind of can mold this guy who is more talented than Alu, more talented than Montu. Then you might be really cooking. But I still, in a weird way, with Navi, am slightly underwhelmed too, because Ema, despite the fact that he had a bit of an uptick in performance when he was playing at ESL Pro League recently with Navi, he still isn't the world beater that he showed a glimpse of when he was playing for Gamer Legion at that Paris Major, which to this day feels very fluky. It feels like he was just kind of in his bag for whatever reason for a single tournament.
Yeah, I think as well, though, another thing to consider is, and I know the community's kind of not ready to get on board with it, but maybe CS2, like other versions of Counter-Strike at various points in history, maybe it just isn't an AWPer's paradise. Maybe it just is actually. Maybe we will even see teams kind of only run the AWP on certain maps, and hybrid players are going to have way more value to rosters, because AWPing kind of sucks now.
Yep.
You know, AWPing kind of sucks now. All the AWPers are saying it. I don't know if this thing that everyone's bitching about today, about like, oh no, you do have AWPing accuracy when you take damage. No, you don't. Look, I stood in a Molotov, and then everyone's arguing back and forth as to whether it's even real, which tells you. I mean, this is another wonderful part of fucking esports, isn't it? We can't even measure things.
I know. That's what I made. I made a tweet a few weeks ago about the fact that this is just like bro science, where everybody's talking.
Science, yeah, I retweeted that one. That was a good one.
Yeah, it just feels like the early studies on creatine. Like, does it cause hair loss? Does it not cause hair loss? It makes my pump look better, so maybe I'm gonna do it. You know, like that's how it feels like talking about everything. Should I use aliases? Should I not use aliases? Do they even work? You know, is it all in my head? That's basically what's going on with CS2 right now. I wish there were more clarity from the side of Valve to just tell us, yes, there is inaccuracy when you're shot, because they can just verify this stuff in the code, but we just have to do all of our own research, which is why there's so much misinformation regarding the state of the game.
You'll only know if it's a bug, because you'll just wake up one day and in a patch note it will say fixed a bug with AWP inaccuracy or something, you know.
They might not even address if it's a bug or not. They might just say change this. So you never know. Was it supposed to be there?
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, too wonderful. I think you know, right now, at AWPers that can actually AWP in CS2, they get a huge bump. You know, they get a huge premium. m0NESY seems to be, you know, at ease. I said it to you last time we talked. I think he goes to being, for me, probably the most valuable player in the world right now. Because I mean, like, it was always going to look like something like s1mple, ZywOo, Nico, and then who else? But I actually think with s1mple going out of the game, Probably, I mean, like, so Munacy becomes de facto
Yep.
top three, but then he's like the youngest, and he's an AWPer, and he can AWP in an engine where all the other AWPers are getting nerfed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he becomes suddenly the most valuable piece of talent in the world, um, and
It's
obviously highly touted with the Falcons waiting in the wings.
okay, okay. Let's talk about that. Let that be our last topic then. So
Okay, yeah.
on the latest hot take point made, Thorin made a prediction that at the end of 2024, at least 3 of the top 5 teams, and not just HLTV rated top 5, but teams that we really consider to be top 5 teams, are going to be Saudi backed. So first of all, do you think that's a strong prediction from Thorin? Do you think he's going to be right?
It's a strong prediction. The only way I could see it failing would be specifically the top five.
Okay.
Top 10, he would have given himself a bit more leeway and would, in my opinion, I think that's a 95% certainty. To kind of put it into context, I've been doing a bunch of investigative work around Falcons and, who actually funds them, where's all the money coming from? Because, what you're supposed to believe is that Saudi Arabian FIFA player just decided one day to fund an org, and now suddenly that org is one of the wealthiest orgs in the world just because, Saudis are rich, aren't they? That's what you're supposed to think, right? But that's obviously bullshit. That's not how any of that works. That money's coming from somewhere. And behind the scenes, people are saying it's government money, it's Saudi government money, it's coming from the royal family in one way or another. And it's sort of getting to the bottom of that, whether that's true, because it does create a conflict of interest. Oh God, I'm talking about this still. It's a conflict of interest issue within the context of like ESL, because if ESL are funded by the Saudi Arabian PIF, and then they've got to govern a team that could also be potentially funded by the Saudi Arabian PIF. Is that team going to get preferential treatment if they break the rules? Are they going to get preferential number of invites to things? And then we all get into this issue that hopefully we can avoid. Because look, can't stop progress. At the end of the day, it's happened. It's over. Saudi Arabia get what they want. Okay, I'll spare you the details and what I think about that, but it's happening, and so Falcons will certainly be one of them. If I was a betting man, all of those roster moves that you've heard, 100%. They're all going to go ahead. Nico, Munacy, everything. Yeah, they'll get what they want. And then it gets interesting because you hear things like, so apparently Guild have got some funding and rumors are circulating. Again, this is just rumors, right? Don't sue me. But, there was like maybe they got a Saudi Arabian bump somewhere from a sponsor or something. And it also gets kind of weird because it's like, what if it's a sponsor? Because, so the Saudi Arabian PIF puts their money into businesses like cadiaN, which is a big, real estate project that's going to sponsor all these esports things, including the newly announced Esports World Cup. But it's the same money. But there's a layer of abstraction because it's a sponsor, it's a separate business, but the money flowing into that business comes from the same source. Is that enough that we can say it's not a conflict of interest? I don't know. I also heard Falcons were even looking, even though it would be a bad investment because they're getting cancelled in 2025. But they were looking at if FaZe complexity, if one of them has to drop out the league because of their conflict of interest,
yeah.
Falcons would just buy in and just be part of the next, pro league circuit. Even if it was only for a year, because they just want to get that brand value. They want to be there. They're not playing around anymore. And so, look, when Saudi Arabia come for something, they want it all. They don't just want the framework. They don't just want... So in this case, in esports, they don't just want the tournaments. They don't just want the biggest tournaments in the world and the biggest leagues in the world. They do want the media too. They do want the podcasts, they want the websites, they want it all to be favorable coverage. Then they're going to want the teams, and they're going to want the players, and they're going to want the streamers. And this is how you end up with Pimp tweeting, "Hey gang, guess what's going to be really cool? A World Cup for esports in Saudi Arabia." And send tweet. Nobody could hate me for that. That's why that's happening. They want it all. They want the influencers. They want, and they're going to get it because they'll just say, "How much does it take?" And when you exist in an industry where to stop that progress, somebody along the chain has to say, actually, I'm not bothered about the money. But you're fucked in that instance because everyone is very bothered about the money, Maui. People love money. So what do you do?
I can't entirely deny that. Okay, I actually do want to talk about the pimp thing. The pimp reaction was just unbelievable.
Gotta love the witch hunting rules once again.
That's what I was saying. Okay, so yeah, actually, it brings me to the whole thing of the fact that the front page post #1 link was someone making up a bold-faced lie about how Pimp was handling his stream and the people he was banning in it, and also the fact that that's allowed to be up. Aren't there certain rules about, at least in this global offensive subreddit, about witch hunting and the fact that there was no verified way to even show this, and that people were just saying that? Like, the community reaction was it was just dogpiling on Pimp so hard that it was actually kind of frightening. It was kind of like, why, like, people were so out, they felt they were so out for blood on Pimp right there. And
been a while since we've had a good witch hunt.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because I thought there were rules in place to stop that, but but
the problem the subreddit has is there's like the head mod is sensible, you know, an old guy who's been a mod on the subreddit pretty much since its inception, you know, second in command behind the guy who founded it. Don't even know what Hans is doing these days, but you know, I used to talk to him back in the day, not so much now. But, you know, when he's not around, you know, decisions are put into their little forums and they all discuss and nothing gets done. And I think that was one of those instances where it was like it stayed up way past the point it should have done because they have a staffing problem. Because the other issue you've got with Global Offensive and just any big subreddit is they end up, I mean, like, look how many mods they've actually got. But in terms of, like, tenure and understanding, there's like one active mod that's got like any sort of seniority. Then it's like you don't even see these people post,
right?
You know, Smokey the Clown, you know. So
yeah, I'm looking at these names right now.
And they just hired a new group of people a month ago. They hired another 5 mods. And it's like, well, guess what happens when you're a new mod? They can't give you the fucking banning sticks and all that stuff right up front, because people go crazy with it. You know, so that's it's the problem of every major esports subreddit. And look, it sucks when you're the person being witch hunted and it gets taken down like 48 hours after your life's just been turned to shit, and you were like, couldn't we have done that at the start? No. But you know, look, everybody gets it. And that was one of those where it was like, and it's on the community to not get swept up with just outrageous claims about people. I know it's really hard to do.
That's too tough. That's way too tough.
You know, if like just one comment like early in the thread goes, got any proof of this, mate? That whole thread's totally different. But because we haven't had a good witch hunt for a while and everyone's pissed off about CS2, everyone was like, get him! Get him! It must be true. I fucking hate him. He lost all that weight and he won't shut up about it. I fucking hate him.
I know that's actually always one of the highest rated comments about Pimp every single time that people have a negative opinion of him, is that he just won't shut up about his weight loss journey. It's like, can we just be happy about that? You know, he does say it incessantly.
You know, I'm a fat person, so I just come off as bitter about it. So you know what I mean. But like, no, it's like it was basically all of Pimp's greatest hits. Like one time I watched this stream and he told someone who was griefing him in a game to fuck off, and it's like,
as he should.
Yep. Yeah, as he should. Yeah.
As many of us have done, word for word. Yeah.
Yep.
Actually, okay, we have a little more time than I thought before we hit the 90-minute mark. One little thing that I thought was pretty funny, and I just want your take on it, is for the fall finals, cadiaN has been re-enlisted to Heroic to play for them. So the lineup right now is Shush, Tessus, cadiaN, and Dupree. They haven't, to my knowledge, announced who their actual 5th is. But what is your take on the whole cadiaN's outed by the team in this ultimatum that we've talked about a little bit, and then we've also the fact that he's now brought back on board to play one last tournament with them, and then the fact that Heroic is hyping up this move even though they know he's gone after this tournament.
Yeah, listen, I don't know, man. Like, Heroic management are generally very good. They fucked this up spectacularly. I mean, like it was handled so poorly from start to finish. By the way, as soon as a player tries to wriggle out of their contract and gives you an ultimatum, you bench them. It's real simple.
That's like a relationship.
You tell them, right? You don't want to play for the brand anymore, yeah? Right? Well, fine, suits me. You've got these clauses in your contract. That means your salary gets reduced by like whatever the fuck. You know, in some cases up to 70%, by the way. So yeah, we'll just bench you, and you can make that reduced salary, and we'll go out and we'll get 2 Danish players who want to play under cadiaN because he's a legendary IGL, and want to play for Heroics. We're a legendary organization, and those players exist, and we can get them tomorrow. And in 10 months, yeah, you can go and play for Astralis. All right? Yeah, good, cool. We coup de la? All right, cool. See you later. That's what you do. That's all you do. I mean, that's exactly what I would have done. The conversation doesn't even end. You know, it's between us or cadiaN. All right, cool. Yeah, pack your bags. Not a problem. So how it ended up like this, I don't get it. Now to bring cadiaN back into that environment, I get it. Classy move from cadiaN. Not what I would have done. Yeah, so they've set him up to fail because, you know, he knows that they're not going to listen to him anymore. They don't even have to. They just have to hit their contractual obligation and get through this tournament.
Yeah, right.
And so they also, players are assholes, and they're not going to do anything like vindicate cadiaN being in the team.
Probably not. Probably.
So are they going to bring their A games? They don't even want to be there. They're dreaming of Astralis. So yeah, this whole thing's a nightmare. And you know, like, I know it's like with breakups, man. Like, you know when you have that mini breakup before the real breakup?
Yes, very well aware.
Yes. Oh, yeah, same. And they fucking suck.
Yeah.
You know, because there really is no going back, and you kind of know it's over.
You know it's over. It's over.
You limp through another 3 to 6 months, and nothing changes, and in fact gets worse. Well, why do it for a tournament? You know,
right.
they've had the mini breakup, and it should just be a clean break at that point.
That's what we all say, and then we just do let's take a break first, because we just want to hold on to the last vestiges of it. Okay, I appreciate your time, Richard. This has been fantastic. You've
no one even knows what happened in the middle there. It's like, why is Richard suddenly out of breath?
Yeah, I know. And we're just gonna leave him guessing.
Well, true, actually, yeah. It's like, you know, before I do cadiaN questions, I have to do 40 push-ups as well.
Yeah, no, the real thing to do right now as a YouTube influencer is write in the comments below why you think Richard was out of breath suddenly at the 1 hour, 30-minute mark in this podcast. But no, honestly,
saw a pie will probably be the top answer. Like, so fine. Yeah.
No, but thank you so much, Richard. I always appreciate your time. I know you're super busy, and honestly, keep on chugging along. I mean, I'm sure most of the people that are viewing this know where to find you, but I want you to just plug what it is you've been working on, so people are sure where to find it.
Just get to the Substack. That's the one. That's the one that matters, which is Substack. It's richardlewis.substack.com. Go there and just throw in a subscription. You can subscribe for free. Anything that's newsworthy will never be behind a paywall. But the numbers look good. So thanks as always to you. And yeah, I hope Harumi one day learns to love you.
I don't know if I even want that, Richard, but thank you regardless. All right, thanks. That's going to be another episode of the Mauisnake Show. Thanks, everybody.